everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Boston Sports Nuts. Today, a special episode. We are going to review, for the first time in Boston Sports Nuts history, the top 20 players in the history of the Boston Celtics, one of the great franchises in all of professional sports. I'm Paul Izzo, along with my good friend Jim Russo.
Paul.
And my other, sort of good friend, Ken Berman.
They let me hang around. How are you guys?
Great to have you here, guys. So the Celtics, what a history. All the banners hanging from the rafters. So many great players, so many to choose from. So let's talk about how we did this. So each one of us submitted, ranked 1 through 25, our top 25 players in Boston sports history.
Yep.
Our intrepid producer, director, Evan, then compiled the numbers so that none of us know how each other voted. And then Evan compiled the final score. And if there was a tie between two players or more, Evan was allowed to break the tie with
He was the tiebreaker.
vast wisdom. And from what I understand, there were two tiebreakers, but we're going to keep those a secret and just kind of go through it. So are we ready, boys?
Ready.
All right,
yeah.
let's go. The top 20th, the 20th greatest Celtic player of all time is Tiny Archibald. Let's talk a little bit about Tiny. Ken, why don't you get us started?
Funny, because that's exactly where I had him. So I'm shocked that I got it right, actually. Tiny. Now, we're talking about as a Celtic.
As a Celtic.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying that. If a guy had a great career elsewhere.
Which he did.
Right.
But he had, really a great run with the Celtics, with Bird at first, when they first formed that team. Just an all-around great point guard. I consider Tiny Archibald a real point guard, great passer, distributor, got the ball to the right people at the right place, and could drive to the hoop, unlike very few guards his size could go to the hoop.
Yeah, now he was the guard for the early part of the Bird era.
Yeah, he doesn't belong in the top 20, and I'll tell you why. Tiny's an all-time great Hall of Famer. I think he's still the only player to lead the NBA in scoring and assists in the same season.
Yeah.
Tiny Archibald is basically 3 years with the Celtics that count. 79-80, 80-81 when they won the title, and 81-82. When Tiny got hurt in the Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 1 against the Sixers, a series they lost by 7 games. For those 3 years, he was great. He was an integral part of the team. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's in tough competition. And I'm sorry, 3 years just doesn't do it for me to put him in the top 20.
Yeah, I
actually didn't have him in my top 25 either.
I had him in the lower part of the top 20.
Yep.
One-time champion, 3-time All-Star. One of the things I looked at was he an All-Star with the Celtics? Did he win a title? And was he an MVP? He was never an MVP.
No.
But a 3-time All-Star. I had him ranked in the lower teens. He's the 20th greatest Celtic of all time with a protest vote from Jim.
That's all right. Yeah, that's
it.
no,
Okay.
That's what
Number
it's all
19,
about.
the 19th greatest Celtic of all time, Rajon Rondo.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So
Yeah.
I'll get started with him. Rajon Rondo, one-time champion with the Celtics, 4-time All-Star with
Right.
Boston. I think a lot of people forget that he was an integral part of that early 20th, first century team. He was maybe their first great point guard in a while. And I think he deserves to be in the lower end of the top 20. Jim?
Had him exactly 19. Just to compare Rondo and Tiny, overall, Tiny's a better player. But Rondo was with the Celtics longer. He won a title in his rookie year.
Yep.
He got him back to the finals in 2010. They might have won it. They might have won it the other year if Garnett didn't get hurt in 2009. And he continued on. He became the captain at one point.
Right.
He continued on. Smartest player Doc Rivers ever coached, he said, or something like that, even though he kind of drove him crazy at times. Absolutely, and I think this is perfect position for Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, I actually had him at the very bottom. He was my 25th that I sent in. Yes, starting rookie point guard for the Celtics in the championship season. And then went on to have some great years. I actually thought that he was going to be the linchpin to more great teams and maybe championships. And it is actually his second year when they started out, whatever it was, 29-3. He was absolutely tremendous, unstoppable. leading the team in passing. And he was a great passer, great driver. Wasn't a great shooter, but
great defender, too.
Yeah, the last thing I
defensive
just
player.
want to add about him is that watching the Celtic City documentary, which we all have talked about, reminded me that we often get lost with the big three, Pierce, Garnett, Allen.
Yep.
But really, Rajon Rondo was driving the bus for a lot of those games, a lot of those teams. And he was he went on to have a great career as an NBA player.
Yeah.
A long career. He just retired a couple years ago. Made a tremendous – I looked up how much money he made. He made hundreds of millions of dollars as an NBA player, so good for him. All right, we're going to move on to 18. 18. Number 18, the 18th greatest Boston Celtic of all time, Paul Silas. Now, I have a feeling that Jim had him rated very high, so let's going to go with Jim.
No, I actually had him at 24, outside the top 20.
Oh, wow. I'm shocked about that.
Okay, the reason again,
not enough time.
is Paul Silas played 4 years with the Boston Celtics. Paul Silas was a dominant rebounder. He was an essential part of 2 titles, but he was the 4th best player on that team. Okay, and again, for me, he would have been even higher if he played here longer. I am going strictly by the rule of the Celtics, and 4 years to get into the top 20 when you're the 4th best player on your team. But let me say, essential. And I will say, as long as I follow the Celtics, the great Red Auerbach, obviously without whom none of this happens, that is his absolute worst move, trading Paul Silas for Curtis Rowe.
Right.
It's the worst move of his career.
Not only did it hurt the team with the loss of Silas, but Curtis Rowe never panned out to
he was
really
horrible.
be very much.
No, and Silas went on to win another title.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one shocks me because I didn't even have him in my top 25, so you must have had him ranked pretty high.
I did, yeah. I just thought that for the 4 years he was here, he was just a fabulous player that they just don't win as many games without him. Great rebounder, great defensive player, great all-around teammate. I had him much higher.
But remember, as much as I love Paul Silas, and the irony, of course, is Johnny Most used to call him Tall Paul, and he's about what?
6'6".
6'6".
Yeah.
He was a limited player.
Absolutely.
His specialty was rebounding and defense. He was not a shooter.
No.
But
Different time, though.
a different time.
Right.
Absolutely essential. They don't win him without it. Without him. They
And,
don't win-
I'm probably somewhat emotionally biased towards
That's
that
okay.
70s team. So
That's your favorite team.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
number 17. Number 17, all-time greatest Celtic player is JoJo White. Wow, JoJo White. Ken, why don't you get us started with the great JoJo White? Number 10, his number hanging from the rafters.
Oh, geez. Means a lot to me, JoJo White. Smooth, silky, greatest stop and pop jump shooter they've ever had on a fast break. Good defensive player. Many-time All-Star, I believe, right?
Seven-time All-Star.
Seven-time
That's
All-Star.
not shabby.
10 years with the Celtics, I believe. 10 seasons before he got traded. Got the foot injury. Wasn't the same again after that, but he was tremendous. And by the way, back in the old days when they did the one-on-one tournament, he won it one year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
Let's get real here. 17? This is JoJo White. I mean, like Ken, that's my favorite team.
Yep.
I got him at 10. This was a 2-time champion, as Ken said, a multiple All-Star. The term didn't exist then, but he was part of the Celtics' Big Three.
Right.
And that was a big 3. We'll get to the other 2 later, I'm sure, so I won't go into them. But that was a real big 3.
Yeah.
Okay? And JoJo, who, by the way, I have one big complaint about, which I've talked to you about, is that he couldn't play with anybody but Don Chaney, it seemed. And we had to trade Paul Westphal for Charlie Scott and make Charlie Scott, who was a great scorer, into a Don Chaney clone.
Right.
Having said that, without JoJo White, 2 titles are down the drain, a whole era.
Right.
I just have him at 10. I mean, everybody's
Right.
entitled to their opinion.
Yep.
That's mine. 10.
Yeah, I have him in the upper teens.
Yeah.
I have him in the upper teens.
Yeah.
Okay. Good points, Jim. All right. Number 16, Sweet 16, the 16th greatest Celtic player of all time, Bill Sharman. Okay. Let me take this one.
Yeah, go with Bill.
Okay. couple of just numbers. 4-time champion, the early part of the Russell era. 8-time All-Star.
Yeah.
He was one of the foundations of that early Celtic team that people forget. They think it started with Havlicek. It actually started before that.
Oh, yeah.
And he was an anchor of those teams. 8-time All-Star, that's serious business.
Yeah, I have him at, what are we on, 16?
16.
I have him at 14, which is basically the same, off by 2. So I agree with this consensus. Bill Sharman, now, if you just look at his shooting percentages, they're not great. But to me, you just got to look at the guy in the era he plays. You can't compare him to now when guys shoot lights out. They practice more. They don't work in the offseason. All to their credit.
Yeah, we all agree on that.
They lift. Sharman was the best shooter in the league in his time. He was the best free throw shooter. And he was an essential part of the best backcourt in basketball with a guy we're going to name later, I'm sure.
Yeah. And
let's not forget about Sharman. He played before the championships. He played on a very good team. They just didn't have Bill Russell yet. And also a couple other things about Sharman. He went on to coach the Laker team that won their first title in L.A., that won 33 games in a row. And he also invented the shoot-around on the morning or early afternoon of a game, which still exists today.
It does.
I read that too. I got a chuckle out of that.
No, Sharman was just one of the essential parts of the early championships. I mean, he was just a great guy on those teams.
Yep.
I mean, you don't win. You got to have all the guys.
Yeah.
Got to have them all.
Yep.
All right. Number 15, Ray Allen. Interesting. Short timer with the Celtics. Jim, why don't you kick us off with Ray Allen?
All right, I got Ray Allen at 18.
Yeah, me
so I'm
too,
a little
actually.
lower than the consensus. I think Ray Allen might have a bit of recency bias in his favor. Great Celtic, essential to one championship, third best player on the team. Without him, they don't win. But, I would have guys like Sharman over him because they did more. But no, he's 15? Yeah, I mean, this is close.
Yeah, I had him at 16.
I had him at 18.
We both had him
Yeah,
at 16.
this is
Yeah,
close.
one-time champion, 3-time All-Star with Boston, went on to win another championship with the Miami Heat, which a lot of Celtic old-timers weren't crazy about.
And although we're not talking about him being elsewhere, but when he was, before he got to the Celtics, he was,
He'd be higher on this list.
leading scorer of the league, all that stuff.
Yeah, had a local connection too, which was kind of fun.
Had the 3-point record for a while.
Yep.
Until Reggie broke it.
And he looks like he can still play.
I
when
know,
they
doesn't
interview
He
him.
broke Reggie's.
He
Till
broke
Curry
Reggie's.
broke it.
Yeah, and then Curry broke it.
Yeah, he does look like he could still play.
Amazing. All right, number 14, not Jim Rice, the 14th greatest
Whoa.
Boston Celtic of all time. Interesting. Cedric Cornbread Maxwell. Doesn't like to be called that.
No,
but
he doesn't.
Ken, why don't you go? I have some interesting things to say about Cedric. I don't hear what you have to say.
I had him at around 12. Cedric, many years with the Celtics, had a good long career with the Celtics, 2 titles. Took him on his back in Game 7 against the Lakers and came through. One of those sort of throwback players from that era that was just tremendous in the low post. Every little wiggle, move, hap hook, always getting fouled, elastic band out there type of guy, and became a really good defensive player too.
Yeah, I got him at 16, so I agree with the consensus on this. It's if it's in 1 or 2, it's basically the same. I agree with everything you said, Ken. So I'll just add a couple of things. Cedric Maxwell became a very good defender. Now, this was crucial on those first 2 teams.
That's right.
Because Cedric Maxwell on offense was basically a 4, a power forward. On defense, however, he played the 3s. Another guy on this list did this also, who I don't want to spoil any things. The reason they had to do that was a guy who's going to be near the top of the list could not guard 3s. So they switched, and they were very fortunate to have a guy like Cedric Maxwell. His game inside, all those moves, I think he's right around here and a crucial part of 2 championships. And he also got us Bill Walton, so in a trade. But that's,
Well, I think he was a MVP Finals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Finals
81.
MVP
MVP.
in 81. Yeah.
84
Get on my back, fellas.
was 84. That wasn't the same.
Right,
year.
84 was Get on My Back. 81,
Yeah.
he was the Finals MVP.
right.
Interesting thing about him, though, never made the All-Star team, as far as I know. Two-time champion with the Celtics. And of all the players that I picked, he's the only one that never made an NBA All-Star team, to my knowledge. All right, now, unlucky 13. Let's see who it is. Oh, we have a contemporary Celtic. I think that's the first one. Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown. Wow. Okay. Jim, why don't you kick us off with Jaylen Brown?
Okay, I think he's a little high. Again, maybe a little recency bias, but I got him at 17. Absolutely deserves to be on this list. Final MVP. As far as I'm concerned, a true Celtic. Just embraces the whole history. Bill Russell, the whole thing. He's had a very, very good career here, and he's gotten better almost every year. Incredibly hard worker. And what he did in the finals last year by taking on Luka Doncic defensively, that's one of the great moments. It's up there. So absolutely deserves the list. I am a little lower, but I can't quibble with Jaylen Brown.
I had him right at 13.
Wow.
Okay.
When I look at Jaylen Brown, yeah, now he's now been here 8 seasons or 9?
9, I think.
9 seasons, All-Star team.
4 times.
4 times, Finals MVP. And like Jim said, always getting better, but he's one of the best athletic players they've ever
point.
had.
Absolutely.
Good point. Yeah, he's a beast. He looks like he could
Good
play
point.
linebacker.
Good point.
He's been involved in some historic moments. He stole the ball against Indiana. He made the shot in the corner to tie the game in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So, and then he was the outstanding player in the finals. Some people debated that, but he had his big The thing about the Celtics is you got to win a championship.
Yeah.
Now, there are some exceptions. But you get in the club if you win a championship. Yeah. And he did that, and he played a major role in it. So his number's going to be up on the Raptors.
And just one other thing.
Absolutely.
Since he's been here, they've been
Excuse me.
Bless you.
They've had really good teams with him as one of the better players. The losing in the finals, losing in the conference finals, making it to the second round. I mean, He's
that's a great point. And apparently every year after the 50th win, he
Thank you.
gets the team together and reminds them, how great winning is, even in the regular season. And he's right. I totally agree with that.
Good for him. Okay, number 12, the 12th, working our way down, or how would I say this? Is it the 8th? Is it?
I've had this debate in drafts
Okay,
forever.
number 12.
Do whatever you
on
want.
the top 20.
Do whatever you want.
Robert Parrish, the Chief. All right, I'll get us kicked off with this one. Some impressive numbers. A 3-time champion, and I'm going to admit I was surprised, a 9-time NBA All-Star as a Celtic. He was one of the key players in a dynasty, a little mini 80s dynasty. Played most of the time. Was a durable player.
Oh, yeah.
Was able to work out his personality differences with his teammates. And although that doesn't relate to us, went on to a further career with Chicago. And I think he won a ring with them, didn't he?
Yes,
he won a ring.
He was on the bench. But
he was on the bench.
Won a ring,
A great player, and I think he's right about where I had him, around 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I had him 11. Again, what you said, 3-time champion, essential to that team. If you went to a Celtic game at that time and you could hear the court, you would hear Robert Parrish. He was basically the captain of the defense.
Yep.
And you went to more games than I did in that era, but so you know this very well. He was the guy in back, and he was directing the show. And just legendary battles with Kareem, one of the great centers of all time. I had him at 11. I think he's right about where he should be. And just 3 titles, all those All-Star teams, just great player.
Yeah, tremendous. And I just remember his turnaround jump shot. The ball must have been 14 feet in the air when he released it.
Yeah,
that's I never saw anybody release a ball so high in my life. But at a time when there were good centers, I mean, he came in pretty handy, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And
Yeah, we were still in that era where every team had a center.
He had Jabbar.
He had Jabbar.
He had Moses Malone to compete with.
Yeah.
In,
Lambert he had to deal with.
Lambert.
Yeah.
And we know how he dealt with Lambert. But,
But,
oh, my God.
but like you said, the leader of the
Not what I like,
defense,
but-
and the Celtics would talk about it. He would be the one that would be barking out where you need to be on defense. And
Yeah.
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 He was the last line. Good shot blocker.
Yes.
Good rebounder.
Yeah.
Good foul shooter. So great career. Great career. The Chief.
The
Chief. All right, rounding up the bottom 10 of the top 20. At number 11, I'm determined to figure out a way to say this.
Yeah.
Number 11.
You're doing a good job at it, though. Let me tell you.
Tommy Heinsohn. Tommy, as we all
Tommy.
knew him. Ken, you want to get us started with Tommy Heinsohn?
And I'm a little lower than that, but one of the all-time great Celtics, of course. I mean, I don't know where this franchise would be, without him. And by the way, there forever. Like from 50 whatever till a couple of years ago, Tom Heinsohn was hanging around the Boston Celtics. But I got to go to one of the games I didn't have tickets for was the game Bird stole the ball on the inbounds pass because I had
87.
I had sold them because I thought I was going to have to work. And then that day there was a contest on the radio. If you can, first person to call in with his nickname wins the tickets. And I called in immediately, Tommy Gun.
Right.
Because he was called Tommy Gun.
Right.
I called in, I got the tickets, and I sat 3 rows from where Bird made that steal.
Oh, my goodness.
On the court. So, but just a great Celtic.
I would say about Tommy Heinsohn, and this is somewhat independent of his playing ability, if you were going to create a Mount Rushmore of Celtic people, I think he's on it.
Oh, yeah.
He was a 8-time champion, 6-time All-Star. He coached 2 championship teams, and then he became a beloved broadcaster for like 40 years. Yeah. It might have actually been 40 years now that I think about it. And he was just a great ambassador for the Celtics. But we're here to talk about his playing days. Again, a great shooter, tough guy, had a 10-year career, right?
Yep.
I think he played 10 years.
9 or 10?
And made the All-Star team 6 times and won 8 rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a sad ending to his career because he got hurt.
And
he couldn't,
By the way, that injury now, he'd be fine in a week.
Yeah.
Well, what was the injury?
It was his knee, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
Was.
But my take on Tommy Heinsohn is, Cousy said recently, well, maybe not recently, I saw the clip, that he was, people don't talk about him enough as a player. He's underrated. And I agree with that. He's vastly underrated now as a player. Okay? This was, let's use the term again that was not used then. Big 3. The Celtics had a big 3. 2 guys coming up and Tommy Heinsohn. Okay, Tommy was part of that. He was an essential scorer. In Tommy's rookie year, in the famous double overtime game.
Glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, what did he? He went like 35, 25, something like that.
Yeah.
35 points, 20. I got the numbers wrong, but they're close. He had a phenomenal 7th game, which he fouled out of, I think, in the second overtime. Yeah. This was a great player. Really good shooter. He was the shooter on the team.
He was.
And he also had a great hook shot. Very rarely exists.
Like a running hook shot.
And just a great player. And also, he was one of the guys Red knew that he could yell at in practice to get his point across to the entire team, and Tommy could take it. So that was important for the team too. But this guy, absolutely, I had him at 12. I think he's right around there.
Yeah.
What do we got him at 11? I'm fine with that. Absolutely.
By the way, tough as nails.
Oh, absolutely.
Good defensive player.
Yeah.
And did it while smoking cigarettes, by the way.
Yeah. And he's an accomplished oil painter.
Yes, an accomplished. And he lived in Gloucester for many years and painted there a lot as well.
Yeah. Can we just note, as far as I'm concerned, second best coach in Celtic history.
Yeah.
Okay. No argument there. All right. Now we get to the final 10.
And he turned down the Houston Rockets job that offered him a lot of money to go. He wouldn't go coach anywhere else.
Good for him. All right. Number 10, the top 10. Jason Tatum. Now, we all know what's happened to Tatum. We've covered it on our show. Really unfortunate, tragic set of events. Let's talk about him as a player. Jason Tatum won a championship, 6-time All-Star as a young player. He came into the league, and I remember watching his first year and saying to myself, oh, this guy's great. Like from the very beginning. He got bigger. He got more muscular. He became a tremendous defender. What can you say about him? And he's one of the faces of the NBA, and let's hope that he returns.
Yeah, Jason Tatum absolutely deserves. I got him at 13, but he deserves that. And I would say, as they used to say about music charts, 13 with a bullet. Mm-hmm. We like Paul said, we talked about the injury in another show, but if he can come back, he's going to move up this list. And just a few things about Tatum. First of all, up to this injury, he plays. I mean, he's played more games than any other player since he was drafted, plus 2 Olympics. His team has won. I think they're in 6 of 8 Eastern Conference Finals since he's been drafted. Yep. He's won a title.
That's amazing.
For his age, he's second all time to LeBron in points in the playoffs. This guy, he defends, he rebounds. Like Jaylen Brown, he's an incredibly hard worker, and it shows in his game. He gets better every year. I mean, those of us that follow the team for a long time, we can remember him as a rookie. He was good. He's not that good as he is now.
Oh, no. He's just come so far.
And again, I would say another true, although grew up a Laker fan, another true Celtic, embraces the history, has made his own, and best wishes to him on a speedy recovery.
But I'll echo what I said about Brown. A tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
6'9", in tremendous condition, long arms, made himself a really good shooter. Early on in his career, if you remember, even though he was but playing in conference finals and being one of the better players, he couldn't finish around the basket. Wasn't strong enough. He would get there, couldn't always finish it off. Boy, he took care of that.
Yep.
He started out as basically a mid-range shooter, turnaround jumpers,
coming
that type
out of college,
of thing.
Yes.
Expanded his game. Like Jim said, gets better all the time. He's got a championship under his belt. They've been conference. But how many times first all NBA team?
This, assuming he makes it,
which
we shouldn't assume, but he's going to. This will be his fourth team. All
first team, all NBA.
Yeah.
Tragic it is that maybe the greatest, most visible all-around performance of his career is the night he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He just put on a show that night.
Yep.
All right, number 9. Wow, interesting.
Number 9.
KG, Kevin Garnett.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Garnett, a one-time champion. Again, to my surprise, 5-time All-Star with the Boston Celtics. Not to mention, obviously, he had a great career with Minnesota, went on to play a couple years elsewhere. Jim, why don't you start us off with KG?
Okay, I hit this one on the nose.
I as well, number 9.
Okay, I got Kevin Garnett at number 9. Now, Kevin Garnett is, to me, number 9 because, 1, he's a phenomenal player. 2, he literally changed the culture of the Boston Celtics when he came. His arrival, the practices became intense. Everything was intense. This is one of the most intense players I have ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
He changed the culture. He won a title his first year, without whom, again. His second year, they may have won the title if he didn't get hurt. He missed the playoffs. And his third year, they may have won the title if Kendrick Perkins didn't get hurt. That's a phenomenal 3-year run. And then, he had a couple other good years for the C's, so I think he absolutely deserves this. He's an essential part of Celtics history. He's also embraced the Celtics history. I went to his retirement night. I just had to go. Love KG and what he brought to this team.
Well, he's just a great basketball player. The things he did at his size, the presence in the paint, offense and defense, rebounding, intensity, and I'm going to say talent. I mean, he was talented. Don't forget, his years in Minnesota, he was, top 2 or 3 player in the NBA maybe?
Yeah.
Top 5.
Top 5
He won an MVP.
Right. I mean, he could play.
Yeah.
Great player.
And one other thing about KG, my favorite all-time sports video, Bad Fingers, Day After Day, that classic video of showing Celtics fans as they find out about the news about Kevin Garnett. And the line is, "I remember finding out about you."
Mm-hmm.
That video just does it to me every time.
Well, thank goodness he agreed to come to Boston
Yeah, right.
because
Yes.
it ended up being a great run. He was kind of an unusual, not in a bad way, player. He could shoot from the outside. He loved that shot from just inside the three-point line. I have a very
Foul
distinct
line
memory of that.
extended.
Yes.
Foul line
Yeah.
extended.
Pick and pop as they ran.
He was a
him.
pick and pop player.
He could handle
absolutely.
the ball a little bit. He was not afraid to mix it up underneath the basket. He was an intimidating presence on the court.
Yeah.
And another thing
Pretty
that
special
I don't
guy.
think, when you mentioned pick and pop, that's so true. On the other side of the ball, one of the great pick and roll defenders
Right.
I've
He
ever
could
seen.
got it. He could got
I've
it.
ever seen. But also because he could stop on the switch
Yeah.
so well that he had time to switch back, which is very difficult to do.
Great defensive play.
I don't think I've ever seen a big man play the pick and roll as well as Kevin Garnett.
All right, number 8. What do you think of when you hear number 8? Don't you think of Yaz?
I was just going to say,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Absolutely.
Number 8, the 8th greatest Celtic player of all time, Sam the Man Jones. Okay, Sam Jones, a couple of highlights about him. Staggering, 10-time NBA champion, 5-time All-Star, tremendous scorer, great person, anchor player on a dynasty, definitely a top 10 Celtic in my view. I had him at number 8.
Okay, I got him at 8 as well. This is one of the greatest Celtics of all time. A couple of things about Sam Jones. Bill Russell once said there were 6 times he took a shot basically to save the season. He made all 6. He's one of the great clutch players of all time.
Yeah.
In one of his books, Russell asked Sam, how come you don't do that every night? I mean, scoring a lot of points. He said, I don't want that. I don't want that pressure. I don't need to do that because they could win anyway. So he saved it for the biggest of big games. I just can't say enough about this guy. He's overlooked a little bit, and also, again, I'll use this term again. I would say part of the Celtics' second big 3 with 2 guys who were coming up. That was a big 3. Without a doubt in my mind, that's a big 3. And you guys know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it. Just, at the end of games, who do you want taking that shot but him? Absolutely. Just a phenomenal player.
That's what he was known for, making the big shot.
And the bank shot.
In the bank shot, making the big shot at the big time, at the big moment. But one of the best all-around guards of that era.
Yes.
I mean, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Size, defense, shooting, ball handling. He could do it all. And he lived in Sharon for a while.
Yeah, well, that's
Ken,
pretty
you
cool.
bring up a good point. He may be the 3rd best guard of that era behind all-timers, Oscar Robertson and Jerry West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Great
Okay.
point.
All right, number 7. Are you ready?
Ready?
Kevin McHale, the big kid out of Hibbing, Minnesota. Who else was born in Hibbing, Minnesota?
Bob Dylan.
Jessica Lange.
And Jessica Lange, Paul.
Yes, everybody knows that. Doesn't everybody know that? The big 3. That's the real big 3.
I saw her in
Those 3.
King Kong.
Kevin McHale, 3-time champion, 7-time All-Star as a Celtic. Somewhat shortened career due to foot problems. Ken, why don't you kick us off, Kevin McHale?
Well, perhaps one of the 5 greatest low post players in the history of the NBA, I would say. Or maybe
Too
top.
conservative. I think he's second.
Yeah, I was going to say it could be Jabbar and then him.
Exactly.
I mean, just unstoppable in the low post, every move, up and under. And to talk about what we talked about with Maxwell, he ended up guarding threes, Jim, in his career as well.
Yep.
Because of the other guy who they didn't want to guard threes.
Right.
So, but just, I mean, jump hook, half jump hook, up and under, fade away. He had every move in the book. And something that I've talked to you about Porzingis nowadays, unbelievable footwork. Just
incredible.
Great footwork.
Yeah.
Kevin McHale, to me, I watch him and I watch the old films of him and obviously the Celtic documentary. I watched a lot of it. And I say, why can't other guys do that? He wasn't the tallest guy that ever played in the league.
He's 6'11".
6'11",
Not the
with
tallest,
long arms.
but there's other guys that are 6'11", and they just don't. It's a gift.
It's
Yeah,
the
he had a
footwork,
gift.
too.
Right,
that
what he
Ken
was
says.
able to do around the basket, the dipsy doodles, the reverses, and it just the problem was there weren't enough guys that really knew how to defend that.
Right.
So he was just a key guy on that team.
Yeah. Kevin McHale, like Ken said, guarded the threes. And that is a big part of who he was. He could guard Dr. J before he, broke his foot in '87, which he played on in the playoffs.
Yeah.
three-time champion. Now, when he came up, he was the sixth man. I think he's won it twice. He's the only Celtic to win it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I vividly remember Johnny Most calling him Force in the Fourth his rookie year because he would come in, usually for max, and score a lot in the fourth quarter. This was a clutch player. I absolutely put him just behind Jabbar as the second greatest low post player of all time. I actually had him a little higher. I had him at 5. I think just
6.
He's an incredible player. And he went on, he played, what did he play? 10, maybe 11? I think he retired. He retired after Bird, 93. So he came in an 80-81. So maybe about 12 years.
He had about 12 years.
Yeah, and breaking his foot, he really was never the same player. But he was still good.
Can I just weigh in on – I think when people hear that Bill Walton had stress fractures and Kevin McHale had injured feet, if you've never had a broken foot, I had stress fractures. I think, you and I used to play golf.
Yeah.
I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Just trying to play golf with stress fractures. I didn't want to stop playing. Finally, the doctor said, you got to rest it, then you got to walk. You can't be doing sports. It was terribly painful. And I cannot imagine playing basketball with bad feet. That is
in the NBA.
That's incredible. All right, number 6, Paul Pierce. Okay, Jim, why don't you kick us off? 10-time All-Star, 1-time champion.
Paul Pierce, again, the consummate Celtic. I had him at 6. Just a phenomenal player who also grew. He had some difficulties in the beginning, just awful stabbing incident. But he was a good player from the start with Antoine Walker. There's several periods in his career. Then Doc Rivers came. He initially clashed with him, but then realized that Doc was actually making him a better player. Paul Pierce, Tommy Heinsohn called Paul Pierce the best scorer the Celtics ever had. That's quite a compliment from Tommy.
He's seen them all.
And he's seen them all.
Yeah.
And second thing about Paul Pierce, in the second half of his career, became a very good defender. Yeah. Wanted Kobe Bryant in 2008 when Kobe was going off a little bit. Also pretty good rebounder, a very clutch player in the fourth quarters and at the end of the games. Can't say enough about Paul Pierce. I also love his post-Celtics career.
Yeah,
it's great. He embraced it.
He's embraced it. He's at the games. I love that.
Yeah.
Big Pierce fan and deserves his place in the upper echelon.
I had him and McHale switched. I had McHale 1 ahead of him.
So did I.
But Pierce, I mean, just a great play. And Heinsohn was right. When it came to just scoring and one-on-one moves, Pierce had it all. Probably had the best one-on-one moves any Celtic ever had with the basketball in his hand. He also became a really good three-point shooter.
Won the contest one year.
He won the contest one year. And I will say one thing, in the 2008 championship, again, in the Lakers and in that whole playoffs, he was the best player on the planet.
Yeah, and look at what the historic duel with LeBron.
Yes.
LeBron was unbelievable that day.
Yep.
45 points. I mean, scoring with 2, 3 Celtics tilting to his side. Paul Pierce had 41. Without that, and we've learned later that Kevin Garnett apparently told Pierce in that game, "I don't have much today," and Pierce said, "Don't worry about it," or something like that. And without Pierce having that kind of game, the Celtics do not win.
No,
and which means they don't get to the finals.
And they get to the finals and they're playing the Lakers, and there's Kobe and him. He was far and away the superior player in that series.
I just want to add one thing that's really not an on-the-court thing. Well, I guess it is, but I gave him a little extra credit over McHale simply for the fact that he stuck around through a bad era.
Yeah.
He was the best player that drew people to the stadium before the Big Three were formed. He was every kid that my son's age favorite Celtic. He's a true Celtic, and as we all agreed, he has embraced it. Okay, number 5.
He just walked 20 miles to work.
15.
15 miles to work after the Celtics lost the second game to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Bob Cousy. Still with us at age 96. I had him at 4, but a 6-time champion, a 13-time All-Star, and a former NBA Most Valuable Player. Ken, why don't you start us off on Coos?
how do you start off on Kuz, but like the Houdini of the hardwood, the first guy throwing behind his back passes, just dribbling through people. He was a great player before Russell got there. He just didn't have Russell.
He was a great player.
He
was the face of the league.
Yeah, he was the NBA, and
I hate that cliche.
Yeah, but just a tremendous ball handler, especially at a time in the NBA when you actually had to dribble the ball properly.
Yeah. My take on Kuz absolutely deserves where he is. I had him a little lower at 7 because I rated players, how good they were, and I just thought he was no disrespect to him. If I was picking a starting 5, he's in the starting 5 because you'd have to pick by positions. But having said that, yes, MVP. He was a great player before Russell came. He was absolutely a great player. Just watching the film on him, the passes, there's about 5 to 10 people all time that have played like that. And he was such a joy to watch. Good scorer. Wasn't the best defender, but not terrible. And, an essential part of what I would consider another big 3, the Celtics' first big 3, Bob Cousy, Tommy Heinsohn, and one more, and won 6 titles. Also basically founded the Players Association, but that's not on-court stuff. All the respect in the world for Kuz. Love him. Still embraces being a Celtic. Oh, yeah. Came to opening night this year. They gave him a ring, which I thought kudos to ownership, giving Bob Cousy a ring. So all power to the Kuz.
I don't have much to add. Those are all great points. But I will say this. When I was a little kid in the 60s, his name was everywhere. Everybody knew about him. Yep. Everybody knew he had been a great player. I just think it's the coolest thing that he's still with us.
Yeah, I do too.
With it, able to comment on he's one of the oldest living professional athletes in America. Not to mention that he had a tremendous career.
Yeah.
He was the face of the NBA in the 1950s, and he's still around and analyzing the games.
Yeah. Is he one of the greatest fast break passers?
Absolutely. There's not even question. Of all time.
Don't get Ken started on fast break.
No, he's absolutely right. But before we leave Kuz, now that I think about it, we have to tell one story if we're going to talk about Bob Cousy.
Okay.
Bob Cousy came out of Holy Cross. He was a freshman on their national championship team. He was not in the starters then, which, if you read his book or whatever, not happy about that, but who would be? Came out and wanted to go to the Celtics, who I think had the number 1 pick. It was Red's first year, and he took a center named Charlie Scher, 6'11". And when they had met the press, the press said, why not Cousy? And he said, do you want us to win or pick local yokels? He wasn't a big Cousy fan. Okay, Cousy is supposed to go to another team. I think the team folded. Then he was supposed to go to another team, something like that. Anyway, there was nowhere for him to play. There were 3 players, and the NBA was trying to divide them up. Andy Phillip, I forgot the second one, and Bob Cousy. So most people, I think, wanted Phillip because he was an all-star. Walter Brown, they were going to put the names in the hat. He said, I'll pick 3rd. He was a gentleman.
Right.
The 2 names got picked. I think Phillip went to the Knicks. The other guy... Cousy comes to the Celtics. And Red gets Cousy.
Red's master plan.
Red's master plan. And Cousy, one of the few people to the day Red died, called him Arnold.
Number 4, Big Red, Dave Cowens. He got a lot of points here. I had him at number 3. Let's run down some of the numbers. A 2-time NBA champion, a 1-time MVP, most valuable player, and an 8-time All-Star.
And a Rookie of the Year.
One of the real characters.
Jeff Petrie.
One of the real characters in Celtic history also. A guy that hustled all the time, an unusual player, left-handed center. I have fond memories of him because the Celtics played a lot of games in Providence in the 1970s, and I went to every one of them, and that was my opportunity to see him. In those days, I never went to the Garden. Terrific player. Oh. Actually, I went to one game in the 70s. I went to Don Nelson retirement night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was random. I just showed up and he was there. Anyway, Jim, why don't you get started? I know Cowens is one of your favorites.
Okay, my all-time favorite Celtic. I had him at 4. He's the most underrated Celtic star of all time. This is a guy in the 70s. Basketball in the 70s was still about the big man. So Russell retires in 69. In 70, they have Hank Finkel at center. Obviously not, a championship caliber center.
No.
And Red goes to scout Florida State.
Yep.
And he wants to see Dave Collins. So the story is at halftime, Red leaves with a disgusted look on his face, as if this guy's no good.
He had not a good game.
Yeah. So the Red benefited from the fact that Collins' team was on probation, could not play in the NCAA tournament. And back then, everybody didn't know everybody like they do now when you're 7 years,
Yeah, people
when you're
would
in
call up
seventh
coaches
grade.
and go, who's a good player?
They talk about old players, coaches. Anyway, the Celtics have the 4th pick in the draft. The 3 players picked ahead of him were Bob Lanier, Pete Maravich, and Rudy Tomjanovich.
Hard to argue with those.
Right.
It is, except I'll say Collins ended up having the best career, but it is hard to argue with that.
Yep.
Collins went to this team. He goes to practice, and the story goes that Red, Russell, and Heinsohn are watching practice, and they're going to play him at power forward. And, somebody says, well, we need a center. He looks good. And Russ said, that's your center. Collins was Tommy Heinsohn's dream as a center. To play these big centers, he would try to run them into the ground.
Which he did.
Yes, at 6'9".
Yeah.
He was a dominant rebounder. When Sports Illustrated got him and Dr. J together to have an interview after the leagues merged, and they put them both on the cover, part of that interview is they were talking about the NBA being a more physical league, and Collins said to Doc, well, nobody's more physical than me. Totally true. There's that famous film of him diving.
Yep.
I had a player from that team ahead of him because of his career, but he was the most important player on that team, in my mind. No question about it. For a time, I think he was, with Jabbar, the 2 best players in the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he was peaking.
I can't say enough about Dave Collins. I wish his career could have lasted longer, but he's one of those guys that went all out, dove on the floor, and
yeah.
Well, it's interesting to think about him overlapping with Larry Bird, and then maybe we don't get Parrish and McHale.
Right.
No, we got him when we had him on the team.
No, but if Collins had said, "Oh, I want to keep playing,"
he was on that team in training.
Yeah, but
camp.
not well into the '80s, Jim.
No, but if they made that trade while he was still on the team.
Okay.
And he left the team bus, went to Parrish, said it's you now. So they already had them.
Yep.
They would have had to trade them.
Yep.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. He retired at that point.
He retired.
Yeah.
He came back to play for Don Nelson.
Right.
For 1 year.
Yeah.
By the way, Bob Ryan's favorite Celtic to cover. I know I went a little long, but he's
that's okay. Go ahead.
From my favorite era, that trio. Collins, by the way, 6'9" was being generous, some people said.
True.
Closer to 6'8", but could leap out of the building and could cover. Not only did he outrun big men, he could cover them. He made their life crazy.
right.
He has defensive footwork, and by the way, sort of created the trailer on a fast break on that team when the Celtics ran a fast break, because he usually made the great outlet pass off the rebound. He would trail. He was a great foul line shooter on the trailer on the fast break too.
Right.
And all out hustle, work ethic, strong. I remember one thing about him. He worked out on the Nautilus machines one off season.
We have to say 2 more things about him. The first is the famous Mike Newland play.
Oh.
Dave Collins hated flopping with a passion.
Right.
Elvin Hayes was a flopper. He hated it. Yeah. Mike Newland was doing it. He went up after this happened. The ref called the foul. Collins is furious.
I remember.
2 hands pushes Newland to the floor, looks at the ref, and goes, now that's a foul.
Right.
The second story, I want to go back to something Paul said, which you're absolutely right. In those days, they would talk to people, as you said, a lot of word of mouth, like you said. Dave Collins was actually scouted by a former Celtic, Mal Graham, who became a judge.
Mel Graham, yeah.
And is it Mel or Mel?
Mel.
Yeah. So you guys probably know this story, but when Red asked him about Collins, his answer was, and Mal Graham, who was African American, said, best jumping white man I've ever seen.
Yeah, right. Right.
Cool. All right, number 3, drum roll. No surprise here. Hondo, out of Ohio State, Mr. John Havlicek. Jim, I know you're a big fan. Why don't you get us started?
Paul, if you don't mind,
I do mind, but go ahead anyway.
I would like to defer to Mr. Ken Berman on this to lead off because I'll probably say some of the things he's got, and I happen to know that this is his favorite Celtics. So with your permission, Paul, I'd like to...
You have my permission.
Thank you. I would like to
Thank you,
defer to
Jim.
Mr. Berman.
All right, let me just throw out a couple numbers
Okay.
before we get started. 8-time champion.
Yeah.
I think he has. He's in third place among all Celtics star players with 8 championship rings. 13-time All-Star in the NBA. Only played for the Celtics. Go.
Well, as Jim said, my all-time favorite Boston Celtic, John Hondo Havlicek, or as most would say, the bouncing Buckeye from Ohio State.
Yes.
But just an unbelievable all-around player, from forward to guard to dribbling to shooting to passing, defense. Still the all-time leading Celtic scorer of all time, champion player, Mr. Clutch as well, another incredibly clutch player. I mean, he just did everything. I remember watching him later in his career guarding Julius Erving, a young Dr. J, and giving him fits.
Yeah.
And never came out of games.
Right.
He averaged like 46 minutes a game for like years.
Yeah.
Never came out. But they also said he had like one of the slowest heart rates, even after playing. Like it was like at 60 beats or something like that. But he was just tremendous. My favorite player. They 74 and 76. You can't win a championship without John Havlicek.
So in the 1970s, my wife, who was a young girl, her dad would get tickets to New York Knicks games. And for some reason, Debbie would always say, my wife would say, I want to go to see the Boston Celtics. She said now, in hindsight, she's a huge fan now. You guys know she's a psycho.
Right.
But at the time, she went to Celtics games because she liked John Havlicek.
Oh.
And she called him La Machine because she would sit there and watch him run back and forth. And she has that memory to this day of just watching him run back and forth. And I think we all have that memory.
Yeah.
Yes.
It almost overshadows his statistical accomplishments, his incredible athletic prowess that he had as an NBA player. Just amazing. And we all bemoaned 73. He basically played with one arm and still almost won the title that year.
Yeah, you guys make great points about him. Just to add a couple of things. As far as I'm concerned, he's part of two. I've talked about big threes a lot.
Two of them.
He's part of 2 Celtics big threes, one with Sam Jones and a player coming up, and one with Dave Cowens and JoJo White. This guy started as the 6th man taking passes from Bob Cousy. Finished his career with an incredible game taking passes from Ernie DiGregorio,
Right.
who, as someone said, was kind of Cousy's spiritual
Did you go to
heir.
that game? I went to that game.
No. And, the other thing, he could play equally well at 2 positions. Now, that's common today.
But it wasn't then.
Back then.
No.
You could start him at guard, start him at the 3, no problem. Didn't matter. And, yes, Mr. Clutch hit the famous shot to give the Celtics the lead when all the fans came on and somebody hit the ref.
Yeah.
This is an all-time great player. Tends to get a little bit overlooked now on all-time lists, but he's up there, and I can't answer.
I don't know if you have any of those stats. I think he's the all-time leading assist as well for the Celtics. Is that true?
I don't know that.
I'm not sure.
I'm not, because he became a
16 seasons and
16.
said that if he knew Bird was coming, he would have hung on.
Yeah.
Number 2, Larry Bird. I'm going to get started with Larry Bird. 3-time champion, 3-time MVP, 3-time most valuable player, 12-time All-Star, was one of the faces of the league in the 1980s. So I want to go first. I want to talk about Bird as a celebrity. The NBA that we know today and that young people know today did not exist prior to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
Right.
We admired Dr. J, we admired John Havlicek, but they were not faces of American sports. Had there been an ESPN, they probably wouldn't have been talked about very much. When Larry Bird comes along, he and Magic Johnson are like a dynamic duo. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the Beatles of the rock and roll era. Yeah. And Larry played into it. Larry went along with it. Larry went along with the image making. He went along with the I'm the hayseed, Magic's from here. And on top of that, he was legitimately an amazing player. Oh. you don't win 3 MVPs in the NBA without being a tremendous player.
In a row.
Great passer, great shooter, one of the first 3-point shooting champions, tremendous hustler. I think he's a little bit of a tragic story in terms of what might have been left on the table due to injuries and maybe some excessive hustling, diving for balls. Might have been able to take a little bit better care of his body, but I wouldn't change anything about it because it was a great ride. Just a tremendous player. Jim, take it from here.
Okay. Larry Bird had a phenomenal junior season in college. He landed on the cover of Sports Illustrated with 2 cheerleaders, I think, maybe 3, and was called basketball's secret weapon because he played for Indiana State.
Yeah.
That might have been before his junior, I'm not sure. But anyway, his senior year, he plays Magic. His team goes undefeated. Everybody knows about him now. He plays Magic in the final and loses to a far superior team.
Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan State. Larry Bird went to the Celtics as under an old rule, junior eligible. Larry Bird was drafted the year before his senior, and the only reason that was allowed at that time was he had gone to Indiana. At first, didn't like the big atmosphere of Indiana. I think he drove a truck for a while or worked on one, went to Indiana State. Bobby Knight, by the way, called him the best player he ever recruited, not played for. So Red drafts him. I'll never forget it. I was working with a bunch of Celtics fans, and we knew about him, and we're like, this is before he had the NCAA run, before his senior season. We said, anyway, they take him. They got 2 picks. They got 6 and 8. Red took him at 6. Yep. Okay? One guy came into the office. They took Bird, and we all went, yes, because it was in the middle of the day. We waited the year. We'd go to games. We'd say, Bird's the word. Mm-hmm. People would go, who's that? We'd say, he's coming. Yep. Okay? Something like that. He came. I was there the first night. Excuse me. They released a dove, which sat in that dirty roof.
The rafters of the old Boston
This was a great passer, as Paul said. As far as I'm concerned, he's the best passing forward of all the time.
Yep.
He broke his finger after his last year in college playing softball, and he's still one of the great shooters. He was a great rebounder, okay? And he made everybody on the team better. But I want to say another thing about Larry Bird. As we've come to know from the stories down through the ages, Larry Bird may be the greatest trash talker in the history of the NBA. And frankly, when he played, I did not know that.
Nope.
They didn't have what they have today. Go to YouTube. The stories are legendary. Walks into the 3-point shooting contest. Who's playing for second? Never takes his jacket off.
Right.
The story's on the court. Hey, you know what I'm going to do to you? I'm going to go right here, take one step back, and hit that shot. He'd do it. Yeah. He told an entire bench once, I'm going to take a 3, I'm going to hit it, and we're getting out of here, or something like that. The legendary story with Casey Jones. They're coming down to the final shot. There's a timeout. He goes into the thing. Guys, just get out of the way and get me the ball. Casey looks at him and says, I'm the coach here. I'll say what we're going to do. He turns to his huddle and he goes, everybody get out of the way and give Larry the ball. He wins the game.
Yeah.
Okay? I also want to point out, the year he played with Bill Walton, if you're a basketball fan, that was poetry. That was ballet. Yeah. We can go into Bill Walton another time. Just trust me, one of the greatest players of all time when healthy. They had the same basketball IQ as far as passing, movement. It was incredible. I mean, I don't know what else to say about him.
Yeah. Well, if Havlicek's my 1, Bird's my 1A as far as all-time Celtics. As you know, I had season tickets his entire career. I went to a tremendous amount of basketball games he played in. I think people forget a couple of things about him. A lot of people want to say he wasn't very athletic. Wrong.
I agree.
That's stupid.
Tremendously athletic.
I agree with you.
He was faster than everybody remembers. He was quicker than everybody remembers. I think if he played in today's day and age, he would be Steph Curry from the 3-point line.
I agree.
As Jim said, best passing forward of all time. And just a menace rebounding. Like no one mixed it up like he did, especially on the offensive glass. He was just like relentless on the offensive glass. And I mean, just unbelievable basketball. He's just a
Yeah,
tremendous basketball player.
pick up on something you said, Ken, about the Curry and the three. I absolutely believe he would be that. And when I think of the greatest players of all time, I rate Magic Johnson slightly ahead of him. But if they played today, Bird would be better than Magic because Magic
was a way better shooter.
He was a way better shooter. And the way the game is played today, Larry would adopt no problem.
Oh,
no
he
problem.
would have been deadly from three. He was deadly from three. He just
yeah.
he
Oh,
never
by the way,
took him.
I saw either his first or second game in New England at the Providence Civic Center. Then I am sitting one of the first three rows, right on the base, not the baseline, but here where the baseline meets here, right?
Yeah.
I see Larry Bird in front of me. He is about. This is going to drive you nuts. He is about to take a 15-footer. This is the first year the NBA has the three. He backs up and takes a three. And I remember at the time, I said to my friends, I said, well, that's new. That's different.
Yeah.
He really only used the three
time.
as a dagger to put teams away a lot of times. He would back up and take a three. He did it against the Rockets in the 86 series.
He closed out the Bucks series with that.
Yeah.
He took 2 threes against the Lakers in 87, made the first one, missed the second.
All right, number one. No surprise here.
No surprise.
William Fenton Russell. He got all of us voted him the greatest Celtic of all time. An 11-time champion, a 5-time MVP, a 12-time All-Star, won every big game where he was healthy, won games as an Olympian, won games as a
2 NCAA
college player
titles.
at San Francisco. Just a remarkable career. It's all been said on the Celtic City documentary. I just want to go first on this one and talk. To me, Bill Russell is maybe the greatest athlete in the history of Boston sports. We've been blessed in this city with some really historic players. Ted Williams, Big Papi, Cy Young, Bobby Orr, Tom Brady. If you line up their accomplishments and their accomplishments in Boston, as great as those other guys are, I think Russell stands alone in terms of his winning, his personal accomplishments as a player, 5 MVPs. He's not a role player, 5 MVPs. And a little bit, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a little bit of his off-the-court impact on all of us, our city, our nation, and throwing that a little bit like spice into the pot at the end.
Yeah.
I think he's number one all-time in Boston. Forget the Celtics for a minute. For me, he's number one all-time in Boston.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
And I'd also throw in he revolutionized the game. The game was played on the court. You didn't go in the air. Most people didn't go in the air.
Right.
Most coaches at the time taught you don't leave your feet on defense. As hard as that is to believe for a modern fan, that's what they taught. Russell would start to block shots. His coach wouldn't be happy. He's leaving his feet. What's he doing? He revolutionized the game. He made it aerial. His accomplishments, as Paul said, unparalleled. He's number one for me in the Celtics, in Boston, and he's one of the greatest top 5 athletes, as far as I'm concerned, anywhere.
Of all time.
And of all time. And, another stat that I think is actually higher than most people do, because I've counted several times, I think it's 21. Bill Russell played in 21 games where if either team lost, they were basically going home. So that's the Olympic Games where you, at that time you were 1 and out, or the medal round, whatever it was. All the 7th games he played in, a 5th game of a 5-game series. His record in those games is 21-0. Okay? Next thing.
Can I just, because that gets quoted as 20-0, 21-0. If the Celtics are down 3 games to 2, you don't count that one.
No.
You're talking both teams.
Both teams.
Both teams. Got it.
Same kind of
just
pressure.
to clarify what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Another thing, his second year, which they didn't win, he got hurt.
Right.
He missed the game, and then when he came back, I think he didn't even play his usual minutes. He, in theory, could have won 10 in a row. In fact, Ed McCauley, the center for the other team, said they probably would have won if he was healthy. Now, the Hawks had a great team that year. But another fact, you talk about great coaching player combinations. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Vince Lombardi, Bart Starr. You can go on and on. Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan. Phil Jackson, Kobe Bryant. Red Auerbach never, and Bill Russell never lost a series when Russell was healthy or didn't miss a game. Right. If Russell played every game, they won.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
End of story. Yeah. Best coach-player combination of all time. Best Boston athlete of all time. Mm-hmm. One of the best athletes of all time. And with that additional thing that Paul so correctly pointed out about his activism.
That's the little spice we throw in at the end.
He is the greatest winner of all time, bar none. Just the greatest. You can't. Nobody wins that much. Nobody has ever won that much. 2 NCAA championships,
yep.
A gold medal, 11 titles in the NBA. Is there anybody comes close to that?
Yogi Berra has 10 rings.
10. Yogi Berra.
Sam Jones has 10 rings.
But
unlike them, they were not the primary player.
Right. He was the primary. And you mentioned leaving his feet. He learned how to block shots and keep it in bounds.
Oh, yeah.
He was unbelievable at blocking a shot, getting the ball, starting a fast break. I mean, it's
all been said.
And a lot of people talk about his offense. You know, he had a funny shot and all that by today's standards. Let me tell you about his offense. Okay? First of all, someone once said, oh, he's the greatest outlet passer of all time. And Russell said, no, I am. Okay? We can debate that. Wes Unseld, Bill Walton. One of the greatest outlet passes of all time. Secondly, Celtics ran 6 plays at that time. There were variations, but it was 6 essential plays Red had. Every set play ran through him.
Right.
So don't tell me he wasn't good on offense.
Oh, he was great.
Secondly, he had big scoring games, especially sometimes in the playoffs. In that game 7 and 57, he had over 30 points, I believe. Okay? Or at least high 20s. I'm not saying he's as good a scorer as Chamberlain or Jabbar. I'm not. I'm just saying this idea that he wasn't a good offensive player is nonsense. And secondly, why would you even bring it up? Defense is just as important. And he's the most dominant defensive player maybe in any sport.
And the Celtics were built for a bunch of guys to score.
Yeah.
They weren't built for one guy to take over and score.
Right.
Especially during his time.
Right.
Well, I'm sure Bill Russell thought, why am I going to start scoring? We're winning every year without me scoring.
Well, you know the story,
He's
right?
got 15 points a game.
Yeah, you know the story,
That's not a bad amount of points.
Bill Russell was in a tournament or something, and some other center got the MVP, and he thought, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He said at that moment, I said,
that was back when he was in high school.
Correct. High school or college? I can't
No.
remember. High school? Okay.
Yeah, he didn't get Player of the Year in
All
California.
Right. So he said to himself, I'm going to control what I control, which is winning.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about this other stuff. Now, there was one time he played for an award.
I know what it was.
He says his most valuable trophy is the MVP of an All-Star game. And the reason is because his father said to him, go out and beat those guys from the West, will you? And he said, does that really matter to you? And his father said, yeah. And he said, all right, we'll win the game and I'll be the MVP. And his dad goes, you can do that? He said, yeah. What happened? They won the game and he was the MVP.
Tremendous.
Amazing. Okay, so Bill Russell is the #1 Boston Celtic of all time. A shocking selection. Yeah. All right, real quick. We only have a minute. I'm going to run down. I'm going to get. We're going to go around the table real quick. I'm going to mention some guys that made the honorable mention list. In other words, they got votes from us but didn't make it. Reggie Lewis.
Oh, great Celtic. He was in my top 20.
I
had him at. I'm sorry, top 25. I had him at 23.
Yeah, I had him in my top 25 too.
I just overlooked
Dennis Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, Bird said the greatest player he ever played with.
Yep. By the way, Dennis Johnson was my highest guy on my list that was not picked.
Me too. I had him at 15. This is 2 titles: outstanding defender, brought here specifically to guard Andrew Toney.
Any comment on DJ?
No, just a great player.
Al Horford. I had Al in the lower part of the teens. I'll tell you what my thinking was there. Number 1, all-star player in his earlier days with Boston, and came back, and this is an underrated thing about Al, embraced the new role that he was asked to play.
Sure.
And did a great job, continues to do a wonderful job for the Celtics.
Let me just say, I don't want to take too much. I agree. Had him at 22 and consummate Celtic. I agree with what you said about the switch.
Yeah.
Danny Ainge was on a couple of lists, did not make it. Great player. Ainge was a one-time All-Star, two-time champion.
Didn't have him on my list.
Bill Walton. I think we all probably were a little uncomfortable with how short his time was in Boston.
Put him in the top 25.
A couple of guys from the past. I'm going to run through these names quickly. Frank Ramsey, Jim Luxkatoff, and Ed McCauley. In my case, when I looked at those guys, Ed McCauley was a six-time All-Star.
Yeah.
Frank Ramsey was not.
First six-man, though.
Yep.
All right, can I just comment on those two?
Go right ahead.
Okay, Frank Ramsey I had at 20th. This is the first sixth man. He played at the end of games for Luskatoff. Red's theory was second best forward is the sixth man because I want him bringing Spark off the bench. Great Celtic, and I had him at 20. I think he's one of the top 20. And Ed McCauley I had at 25. Ed McCauley was a great player. He just wasn't a great rebounder.
I had him at 23.
I agree, that area.
Yeah.
Ed McCauley playing with Bob Cousy and Bill Sharman, that was a very good team. A super high scoring team. It's just when they went to the playoffs, they couldn't get the ball. So Red made, they made the move.
Any thoughts about those?
Agree with everything.
Okay. A couple of guys from more recent times, Isaiah Thomas and Charlie Scott. In the case of Isaiah Thomas, he was a tremendous player on a team that wasn't so tremendous. He was sort of the face of the Celtics for a while. And another guy that fits that category, Antoine Walker. I actually had him in my top 20. I had him around 18. Great player, great scorer, three-time All-Star as a Celtic.
Good in his young career.
To me, on those three players, I didn't think Walker merited a top 25 vote. I can see why you would, though. He was good when he was young. All right.
He had skills.
Charlie Scott, to me, didn't play here long enough. And little known fact, how did the Celtics get Paul Silas? They traded the rights to Charlie Scott, who was in the ABA.
And then they traded Westfall to get Scott.
And then they traded Westfall.
Very little known fact.
Yeah. And lastly, I had Isaiah Thomas in my top 25. They didn't win a title, but man, that was exciting.
He was,
as Tommy Heinsohn would say, the little guy. I mean, we knew they weren't going to win a championship, but man, were they fun to watch with that guy. And another missed the fourth quarter.
Didn't we go to a game together where he just lit it up in the fourth quarter?
Missed the fourth quarter.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Okay, that'll do it. I hope you enjoyed our show, the top 20 Celtic players of all time. Good job, fellas. Thank you, Evan, for putting all this together. We're also going to be doing shows on the top 20 Red Sox players of all time, top 20 Patriot players of all time, top 20 URI Rams of all time. No, Jim vetoed that one. We might do the top 20 college basketball players from New England or something like that.
Bruins.
Bruins. Oh, I forgot about the Bruins.
Yeah.
It's always fun. Anyway, we'll see you next time on Boston Sports Nuts.
Thank you for watching Boston Sports Nuts. You can find all of our episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. For more information, go to westwoodmediacenter.tv or follow Boston Sports Nuts on Facebook, Instagram, and X.